So now it's my privilege to introduce our Culmination speaker. Each year at the end of the summer session, as part of our curriculum in educating the next generation of Jewish communal professionals, we invite a senior professional to serve as the Rabbi Louis Bernstein Scholar in Residence. This year we were fortunate to have Dr. John Ruskay with us to share his insights from 35 years of service to the Jewish community. He has led a seminar over the past 2 days challenging our students to help create the inspired communities we need to nurture the Jewish spirit. I've known John for literally 40 years, since 1971, when the New York Chavurah, of which he was one of the founders, came up to spend the Shabbat with the Boston Chavurah, of which I was one of the founders. Since then, we've taught together, studied together, shared life moments together, and been colleagues in Jewish communal life. John has had a remarkable career that has touched so many people and so many important arenas of the Jewish community. He was the executive director and the education director at the SAJ, the Society for the Advancement of Judaism in Manhattan, the flagship of the Reconstructionist movement. He served as the educational director of the 92nd Street Y. And when you hear people say that we want to create the 92nd Street Y in fill in the blank, San Diego, San Francisco, Los Angeles, they're really talking about the pioneering work that John did at the 92nd Street Y. He was also the vice chancellor of the Jewish Theological Seminary after having dropped out many years earlier as a rabbinical student. And just last spring, he was awarded an honorary doctorate from JTS in recognition of his contributions and his inspiration to the Jewish people both here and around the world. For the past 18 years, John has been at the UJ Federation of New York, the last 12 as the president and CEO, where he has modeled what it means to create an inspiring and caring community. As I told our students, John is arguably the leading Jewish professional in the field today, and I'm delighted and pleased to welcome him as our Culmination speaker.
First, I want to begin by thanking my colleague and dear friend, Richard Siegel, for inviting me to spend the last 2 mornings here. And I don't know if anybody else is, but today is Richard's birthday, so we should wish him a happy birthday as well. He invited me to spend the last 2 mornings with 20 of the extraordinary, wonderful students of HUC's School of Jewish Nonprofit Management. I welcome the opportunity to return to the classroom, where, as usual, I learned far more from them in multiple ways than I fear I imparted. I leave inspired by the talent and commitment continually revealed by the students during our time together. For the graduates, those culminating today, I congratulate each of you and your families who've supported you, the faculty who've guided you and instructed you, the administration of HUC, who've prepared you for this sacred work, and equally, your fellow students. I witnessed how you continually share your insights with one another, a positive indicator of the collaborative culture needed in our community. I will leave tonight and head back to New York uplifted knowing that there are men and women with your talents, your commitment, and your passion to serve our community, to serve our people long into the future. We find ourselves, all of us, in my view, at a moment of substantial change, no doubt, but enormous opportunity. During the first half of the 20th century, our community focused on enabling waves of immigrants to integrate successfully into America. For the second part of the 20th century, while continuing to strengthen local communities, we responded boldly to the urgent need to rescue Jews and build a Jewish state. During this period, Collectively, we were essential partners in bringing 3 million Jews to Israel to establish them, to enable them to establish new lives in freedom. We meet this afternoon with the age of rescue behind us, with an Israel that continues to face formidable external and internal challenges beyond what we might have imagined but 2 decades ago. But Israel today remains, in my view, nothing less than an economic, cultural, and yes, democratic miracle with all the problems that face it. But today here, as American Jews, we find ourselves in the most accepting and generous society where Jews have ever lived. Until the 1960s and 1970s, although we increasingly gained access to the finest universities and could increasingly be employed in any institution in any corporation in America, America's marital norms among Protestants and Catholics, Germans, Swedes, and Italians maintained Jewish identity and Jewish communities. All of this has changed. We are no longer a kept community maintained by the exclusivist norms at the marital canopy. The boundaries that maintained identity and community have been eliminated. Hence, we live in the most open society where Jews have ever lived. In my view, building on what Lisa has said, this is a moment of great opportunity. It provides an opportunity to test the promise of the Haskalah and the Enlightenment from 2 centuries ago. Can we live in both the open society and as engaged Jews? From my perch, this is the challenge, this is the opportunity of our time, and each of you, as professionals who've chosen to devote your precious talents to serve our community, you will be the architects of shaping our response and shaping our future. We are increasingly all Jews by choice. Hence, the challenge can be stated as follows. Can we create Jewish life and Jewish communities that are sufficiently inspiring and compelling so Jews choose to identify with us, not because they have to, they do not because of guilt, they have little, but because Jewish life and Jewish communities and Jewish institutions provide meaning, purpose, and community. Because Jewish life ennobles and enriches. Because in engaging and in participating in Jewish life, we provide an enhanced way, an enhanced means for engagement in the world framed by the wisdom of our tradition, the values of our people, and the recognition of shared history and destiny. And I might add, a subject for another day, this is the identical challenge that is facing Jews in Tel Aviv and in Moscow, where on Thursday night I actually had dinner in the liberals, the center of the World Union of Progressive Judaism there in Russia, where similarly, in each community, Jews are now trying to face the challenge and pure opportunity. Let us acknowledge no previous generation. Our grandparents and great-grandparents had to deal with rampant fear, anti-Semitism, Holocaust, and more. There are challenges, to be sure, but we live in an exquisite moment of opportunity. This is not about whether there's going to be a Jewish people. For good and for bad, those that have rejected modernity, what I call the exclusivist insular communities, they are living and thriving. They believe that modernity fundamentally undermines Jewish identity. As Stephen M. Cohn has said, there is both erosion and renewal going on. And you, each of you, who will join the professional ranks, will help shape the institutions, the key gateway institutions, that will determine whether when people enter our doors, are they inspired or it's a walkthrough. As I said to some of you yesterday, 70% of American Jews are members of synagogues at one point in their life. Then that's just not a walk-in, that's a member. While there are synagogues that are breathtaking in their capacity to provide meaning, purpose, and community, most or many are not. There are Hillels that attract 5,000 people to events, and yet so many of us never got near a Hillel. I make no judgment on that. We're a kept community. Those institutions and others were basically a longer discussion, assimilationist institutions. They provided for identity. We did not think we needed that there was the urgency that every time someone crossed the door, we needed to find the way to be inspired leaders, to be inspired professionals, to forge inspired community that can connect people with meaning, with purpose, some would say with God, and would model our tradition's commitment that everyone is created b'tselem Elohim, in the image of God, and we model that by opening our hands and our hearts to care for all within our community, all within our community. So this I see as the challenge and the opportunity. Another challenge will be, in my view, to make the case for collective responsibility. We live at a time of unbridled individualism, including in philanthropy. Increasingly, individuals want to provide financial support for their own projects and areas of interest, which they certainly should. But if increasing numbers of our people only support those projects which respond to their areas of interest, those institutions that directly touch them, sustaining the essential institutions of our community and our people globally, synagogues, Jewish community centers, hillels, day schools, human service agencies, institutions of higher learning like HUC, and I might add, federations, will be weakened. Let me simply say, if we only support our institutions, the programs we in New York run for Jewish homeless in the Lower East Side, the feeding programs that I observed in St. Petersburg and Moscow, that are feeding 100,000 elderly Jews today, they will not take place. In traditional communities in Europe, one could not build homes higher than the synagogue. This might not work in the Manhattan real estate market, but this minhag, this tradition can remind us yet again that we are part of a people which has a nuanced understanding of the relationship between individual and community. At the Passover Seder, we say, Avadim hayinu, we were slaves in Egypt. On Yom Kippur, we say, Achet shechatanu, we sinned. We do not pray alone, we pray in a minyan. We believe that life is enhanced in community and by creating sacred communities, communities rooted in our tradition, which can connect and infuse life with meaning and purpose. In this way, we stand with pride, in my view, against the grain of some aspects of contemporary culture. And there are other ways as well. As but one example, consumer culture today is driven by advertising, which took root in the 1920s in America. At its core, advertising seeks to evoke a sense that what each of us has is not sufficient. We have a red car, next year you need a blue car. You have a blue sweater, next year we have to have beige. And yet our tradition asks, Mi'ashir, who is the rich individual, Samech bechelko, he or she who is satisfied with his portion. Balancing these aspects, realizing that we are among the most privileged human beings in the world, deepens and opens a sense of gratitude from which my perspective is a core religious sensibility. When recognizing the privilege we live and experience, it opens the hand, it opens the heart to extend and to be create the kind of caring communities that I believe are needed. And I believe if combined with inspiration and inspired communities can lead people to say, that is what I want to be part of. Contemporary culture is powerful, to be sure, and we all are both part of it, and yet we must stand proudly as architects of alternatives, sacred communities of meaning, that affirms the wisdom of crowds, that affirms that life is lived far more richly if we are part of communities that actualize Kedusha, holiness. I congratulate each of you who are concluding this program today and hope that your work will be enriching and satisfying personally and professionally. I hope you take in that we live at a moment of enormous Jewish opportunity and promise. What a moment of possibility. What a privilege to undertake this work together. I look forward to working with each of you as colleagues and co-authors and architects of the Jewish future. Mazal tov.